Namah Sarvebhyah Bhavadbhyah Swagatam. I now request Honorable Justice H.R. Krishna Kumar, Honorable Justice of the High Court of Karnataka, to kindly come on stage. Yes. I request Professor Darshan Shankarji, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Transdisciplinary University, to kindly come on stage. I request our own Shreyas Jaisimhaji, Vice President, Samskriti Foundation, to come on stage. I also request, last but not the least, Dr. V. Prakash, Padma Shri Award-winning Bhatnagar scientist, to kindly come on stage. We are extremely privileged to have amongst us a very elite panel of persons who are on the stage today. In fact, we have had extremely meaningful deliberations from morning today. We have had a variety of presentations based on Indian agriculture, horticulture, computer science, Vedanta, Nyaya, Indian poetics, etc. And I think this is the right way to have the finale to this event. And it is my privilege to welcome the guests on stage after giving a very brief introduction to them. First of all, I welcome Shri S.R. Krishna Kumarji, Honorable Judge, Justice of the High Court of Karnataka, a very eminent judge and of course a very eminent legal luminary before he became a judge. In fact, our relation goes back to about 1 or 2 generations because his revered father S.V. Raghavacharya was also a great lawyer and highly respected person for his legal acumen. And personally, when I was about 7 or 8 years or about 10 years old, we used to frequent his house regularly to watch those black and white TVs, which were the new innovation of those times. So we were all very closely knit in Sadashivnagar when we were staying there. And of course, today, Sri Krishna Kumarji has risen to adorn a very high position. And I am sure he will be elevated to the Supreme Court, and probably one day we will see him as the Chief Justice of India. Namaste, sir, and I extend a very warm welcome to you. Secondly, I welcome Professor Darshan Shankarji, Honorable Vice Chancellor of the Transdisciplinary University, with which I have been associated for the last 18 years. And it has been a revelation to me to be working with him and working under him, because I have learned so much with regard to so many fields. In fact, just as Professor Lakshmithathacharya wanted to take the traditional knowledge systems to the scientific fraternity and prove their contemporary relevance, the same task is being carried out for the last 40 years by Darshan Shankarji, and where he has been striving hard to prove the contemporary relevance of the Indian medical systems. In fact, he spent about 25 years with the tribals of Karjat and Kalyan area in Maharashtra, and he became one of the most acclaimed experts in the world on medicinal plants, how they are used, what are their purposes, what are their preventive and curative aspects. And a feather in the cap of all of us is that he found out a new herb for which there was no botanical name. And after considerable deliberations, the International Botanical Fraternity named the herb after Darshanji by calling it as Darshani. I don't know what is the second name. And he is a Padma Shri awardee, and also he has established several other institutions, and he is also the current Vice Chancellor of the Transdisciplinary University. I extend a very warm welcome to you. Namaste, sir. And we have another great scientist scholar once again in Dr. V. Prakash. In fact, he was the person who safeguarded India's interest in the world stage. So when turmeric and Basmati rice was patented by America, and there arose a situation where India had to pay money to grow turmeric, which is our own very well known herb. It was V. Prakash who was actually made to enter into the arena, and with his extensive knowledge of traditional Indian foodstuffs, extensive knowledge of science, and extensive knowledge of how to put forth our argument with which we could say that turmeric was our own and it was actually borrowed by the West and not vice versa. And Dr. Prakash did it in a very able manner, and he also was instrumental in starting the traditional knowledge digital library, which has progressed to great extent. So I can go on telling so many things about him, but I am sure we are also going to see a film which will be shown after this session, and you will know more about him when you see the film. Thank you, sir, for coming all the way, and I extend a very warm welcome to you. Similarly, we have another multifaceted personality amongst us on stage today, and it is Sri Shreyas Jaisimha. Once again, a legal luminary who is one of the best arbitrators in international law today. And also, as I have mentioned in the introduction of a particular book, he divides his passion between his profession and his passion, once again, which is Sanskrit, Indian knowledge systems, etc. He is a devout devotee of Lord Narasimha, which makes him all the more, it is akin to what he is doing. And it is our privilege that he has started to guide us and associate with us as the Vice President of the Samskriti Foundation. Thank you very much, sir. And I will extend a very warm welcome to you. And once again, I need not welcome all the people who are in the audience. Of course, we have several scholars. We are joined by several scholars newly in this session. I extend my warm welcome to Sri MP Narasimhanji, Dr. M.K. Narasimhan, one of the students of Professor Lakshmithathacharya, and several others who have joined us for this session. So with these words, I conclude my welcome address, and now we proceed with the next program.
Thank you very much once again, Dr. Alvar, for that elucidation and description of the various achievements of the luminaries who are part of the dais. I'd like to now request Justice S.R. Krishna Kumar to release the book, to release the souvenir, please. As we all know, a colossus generally straddles on two worlds. But a colossus like Professor M.A. Lakshmithathacharya straddled on many worlds. It is difficult to describe in one day the greatness, the achievements of Professor M.A. Lakshmithathacharya. But I would request Justice to please come here, Justice Krishna Kumar, to come and talk and give his address.
Esteemed dignitaries on the dais, guests, distinguished scholars, and my dear friends. It's my privilege to stand before all of you this evening as we mark the release of the souvenir commemorating Thatharya Vaibhavam, a tribute to the profound contribution of late Professor M.A. Lakshmithathacharya. This event honors not only a luminary scholar, but also the enduring impact of his pioneering efforts in preserving and promoting Indian philosophy and tradition. Professor Lakshmithathacharya was a distinguished Sanskrit scholar who made significant contributions to the field of Sanskrit literature. In the year 1999, he established the Samskriti Foundation with the aim of showcasing the richness and significance of India's cultural heritage. His extensive knowledge and expertise in Sanskrit literature encompassed classical texts, including ancient scriptures, epics, and philosophical works. Beyond his academic pursuits, he actively worked to promote Sanskrit and its cultural legacy, organizing exhibitions, seminars, and workshops to raise awareness about the value of Sanskrit and the profound wisdom contained in ancient Indian texts. The souvenir we release today is a testament to these extraordinary contributions. It captures the essence of Professor Lakshmithathacharya's work and its transformative influence on how we perceive and engage with our cultural heritage. I'm certain this publication will inspire scholars, students, and practitioners alike to delve deeper into the roots of our civilization and to find modern relevance in its rich traditions. Let us also take a moment to commend the organizers of Thatharya Vaibhavam for their commitment to celebrating our cultural intellectual giants. It is through such efforts that the legacy of scholars like Professor Lakshmithathacharya continues to thrive and guide future generations. With this, as we now have released the souvenir, I invite all of you to immerse yourself in its pages, a fitting tribute to a life dedicated to the pursuit of wisdom. I thank the organizers for inviting me. I'm really privileged to be part of this August gathering and this function. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Justice Krishna Kumar, for the articulation. I would now request Dr. V. Prakash to come on stage and say a few words about his association with Professor M. A. Lakshmithathacharya. Thank you.
Dear August gathering on the stage and more weight on the other side of the stage, not because of the physical stature, but because of the intellectual capacity that you have. It's so important that on a day like this, ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ನನಗನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ದಿವಸ ಲಕ್ಷ್ಮೀತಾತಾಚಾರ್ಯ ಅವರು ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ನಾನು ಯಾರು ನೋಡಿದ್ರು ಲಕ್ಷ್ಮೀತಾತಾಚಾರ್ಯ ನೋಡ್ದಂಗೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಎಸ್ಪೆಷಲಿ ಆಳ್ವಾರ್ ಅವ್ರು ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅವರ್ ಮೆಮರಿ ಗೋಸ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಸೋ ಮಚ್ ಟು ಮೋರ್ ದ್ಯಾನ್ 40 years. ಯಾಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಂದರೆ ವೆನ್ ಐ ಎಂಟರ್ಡ್ ದಿಸ್ ಹಾಲ್ there was darkness. There was a short power failure. But after I sat down, the power came back. And it looked like what we are today without Lakshmithathacharya when the power went off. And when he was there, the power never went off. For anything, you can resort to him. He was just another person whom you can resort to and go for any solutions. Just now Dr. Alvar said that Basmati hago turmeric, Darshan Shankar knows. The battle of turmeric, not like the battle of the bulge, not the battle of Pataliputra, but the battle of turmeric. You said that I was responsible for giving input to making the government of India win that. But let me tell you, who won that patent was, the turmeric patent was won by Sushruta Samhita, not by India. And Sushruta Samhita was introduced to me by Professor Lakshmithathacharya. And several hours of discussion and arguments and disagreements made a lot of difference. So let me first give my gratitude to him on that. When you come to Basmati, I'm sure Darshan would remember, Charaka Samhita is the one which won the patent and not. So it is important for us to give that huge applaud to the Bharatiya traditional wisdom practices and all that would not have happened in my life if I had never come across Professor Lakshmithathacharya. I knew there was a giant in Melkote and I had to see him. And that giant, one day, giant of knowledge, came to my office and said, ನಿಮ್ಮತ್ರ ಒಂದು 5 ನಿಮಿಷ ಮಾತಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. ಅದು 40 ವರ್ಷದ ಬಾಂಧವ್ಯ ಆಯಿತು. ಅದ್ರ ಏನಪ್ಪ ಅಂದರೆ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಆಹಾರಾಧಿಕರಣಂ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಡಾಕ್ಯುಮೆಂಟ್ ಇದೆ, ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ಓದಿರ್ಬೋದು. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ವಾಟ್ ದಿ ವಿಮಾನ ಚಾಲಕ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಟು ಈಟ್ ಅಂತ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ವಿಮಾನ ಚಾಲಕ ಅಂದರೆ ಪೈಲಟ್ ಅಂತಲ್ಲ, ಇಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಅ ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ ಮೀನಿಂಗ್ ಇನ್ ಸಂಸ್ಕೃತ್. ಸೊ ದೇರ್ ಫೋರ್ ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವೇನಾದ್ರು ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗತ್ತಾ, ಅದನ್ನು ಕಂಡುಹಿಡಿಯೋಕ್ಕಾಗತ್ತಾ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು, ಅದರಿಂದ ಮುಂದೆ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದು ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದಿ ಫಸ್ಟ್ traditional food symposium was held in Melkote. Never ever traditional food symposium was ever held in India. And under the leadership of Professor Lakshmithathacharya, and at that time Dr. Alvar was still much younger, and also at that time Professor Mullimanohar Joshi came all the way from Delhi to inaugurate it and stayed with the whole symposium whole day till late night. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಲಕ್ಷ್ಮೀತಾತಾಚಾರ್ಯ ಅವರ ಒಂದು ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಗಿಡ ಇದೆ, ಮನೋರಂಜನಿ ಅಂತ. ಆಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಯು ಮಸ್ಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಹರ್ಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಟ್. ಅಂದರೆ ಅದರದ್ದು ಹೂವನ್ನು ನೀವು ತಗೊಂಡು ಒಂದು ಅದರ ಅಲಂಕಾರ ಏನಪ್ಪ ಅಂದರೆ, ನೀವೇನೊಂದು ನೆನೆಸ್ಕೊತಿರೋ ಒಂದು ಹಣ್ಣು ಅದ್ರ ವಾಸನೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಬೇರೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಹೂ ಕಿತ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದಲೇ ಬೇರೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಹಣ್ಣು ವಾಸನೆ ನೀವು ಮನಸ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಆ ವಾಸನೆನೂ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಇದು ಮನೋರಂಜನೆ ಒಂದೇ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಭಾರತ ರಂಜನಿ ಇದು. ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಆ ತರಹ ಒಂದು ಒಂದು ಗಿಡ ಅವರು ಬೆಳೆಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂದರೆ he was astonished about nature. He was astonished about the truth for the science for which it has to be done. But unfortunately in the modern days, I am coming to the last portion of my talk, there is not much time. ನಾನೊಂದು ಪುಸ್ತಕ ಬರೆದಾಗ the herbaceutics, the journey from ayurvedics to the nutraceuticals. ಅಂದರೆ ಇವತ್ತೆಲ್ಲನೂ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಯೂಟಿಕಲ್ ಅಂತ ಕರೆದು ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಫಾರ್ಮಾಸ್ಯೂಟಿಕಲ್ಲು, ನ್ಯೂಟ್ರಸ್ಯೂಟಿಕಲ್, herbaceutical, whatever it is. But the chapter that Dr. Lakshmithathacharya and Dr. Alvar has written in that has, to my knowledge in my book, has got the highest citation so far. It's unbelievable because they have gone deep into every aspect of it and analyzed and looked at food from a different angle, looked the knowledge into different angle, and therefore I am very proud. ಇವತ್ತು ಯಾರು ಯಾವ ಬುಕ್ಕನ್ನು ಕೋಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ನಂಬರ್ 4 so and so, not other chapters. Of course, the next is Dr. Vaidya's chapter, Professor Ashok Vaidya's chapter is no more. ಈ ಒಂದು ವಿಷಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಇವತ್ತು ಇದಕ್ಕೆ 25 ವರ್ಷ ಆಗಿದೆ ಹುಟ್ಟದಬ್ಬ ಸಂಸ್ಕೃತಿ ಫೌಂಡೇಶನ್ಗೆ. ಕೃಷ್ಣಮೂರ್ತಿಪುರದಿಂದ ಮೇಲ್ಕೋಟೆವರೆಗೂ ನೋಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಅದನ್ನು. ಸೊ ಈ ಒಂದು ದಿಸೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕೌನ್ಸಿಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಸೈಂಟಿಫಿಕ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರಿಯಲ್ ರಿಸರ್ಚಲ್ಲಿ ಬಾಸುಮತಿ ಪೇಟೆಂಟು, ಟರ್ಮರಿಕ್ ಪೇಟೆಂಟ್ ಹೊಡೆದಾಡಿದಾಗ ಯಾಕೆ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಹೀಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ನಮಗೆ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಬಂತು. ಆಗ CSRನಲ್ಲಿ ಟ್ರೆಡಿಷನಲ್ ನಾಲೆಡ್ಜ್ ಡಿಜಿಟಲ್ ಲೈಬ್ರರಿ TKDL ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಎಸ್ಟಾಬ್ಲಿಷ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಅದಕ್ಕೂ ಸುಮಾರು ಈ ಸಿಲ್ವರ್ ಹುಟ್ಟದಬ್ಬನೇ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಇನ್ನೇನು. ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ವೈ ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಸೋ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ವಾಸ್, it was not that the knowledge was stolen. It was because the knowledge was not stored. There's a difference between stolen and stored. So the knowledge was not stored in the proper way. So therefore, I mean, if the fruit is available freely, you will also take one. Yeah. So adrinda, it is very important to store it properly, store it rightly, and store it in the correct format, where it can be only shared to people who are concerned, not for commercial purposes. So therefore it's very important. ಆ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಫೈಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ ಹೊರತು ಫೈಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದೇ ಒಂದು 8 ವರ್ಷ ಆದಮೇಲೆ CFTRIನಲ್ಲಿ the largest patents that any institution held in this country was CFTRI with 1000 patents in 8 ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ. So when we became filers and not fighters, the fighters stopped filing. So we need to create a platform where we have an opportunity using science. I would like to conclude my talk by giving my pranams to Sri Lakshmithathacharya. For me, he is always a martyr. Why a martyr? I don't know. I could only see him. My throat is choking. I could only see him before COVID. After COVID, I missed him. So, if COVID was not there, maybe he would have been here with us to celebrate the 25 years of Samskriti Foundation. But in that, he always told me one thing, and I would like to echo it very loudly as possible. Quote, ಭಾಳ ಸತಿ ನನ್ನ ಆಫೀಸಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾವು ಚರ್ಚೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೇವೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಕೊಲೀಗ್ ರಂಗರಾಜನ್ ಅವರು ಮಜ್ಜಿಗೆ ಕಪ್ಪು ಆದಮೇಲೆ ಮಜ್ಜಿಗೆ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ನಾವು ಕೂಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅದನ್ನ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಪಾರ್ಟಿ ಥರ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು. ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ನೋ ಲಿಮಿಟ್, 9 ಗಂಟೆ 10 ಗಂಟೆ. ಸೊ ಆ ಒಂದು ದಿಸೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರು ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಇದೊಂದು ಮಾತು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಐ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ರಿಪೀಟ್ ಇಟ್. ಮಾಡರ್ನ್ ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿ must not challenge asking for proof of traditional knowledge, traditional wisdom, and traditional practices. But the modern science and technology must commit, combine, and contribute to the traditional knowledge to support it and to understand it. Why? Traditional knowledge is thousands of years earlier, may not be here at that time, but the youngsters are there to look after it. So I want to repeat when the power is on, let modern science not demand proof for everything that we have, because the phase 3 trials were done much earlier than phase 2 and then phase 1 in the case of traditional knowledge and traditional wisdom. Let the modern science support, commit, combine, and contribute to the understanding of the traditional Bharatiya Vijnana, which was much earlier than the present Vijnana. With those 2 words, with pranams to Professor Lakshmithathacharya, thank you for inviting me, for speaking for a few minutes, and I think it's a great occasion, and a lot of energy gets filled in the moment you say Thatharya. Thank you very much.
Padma Shri Dr. Prakash, thank you once again. I think I can take the liberty and talk in front of the legal fraternity that the scales of justice tilted towards you, because you used an analogy and said when the power went off and came on, you felt the presence of Thatharya, but you also, through your speech, it was almost like a beacon light that illuminated our minds. Thank you so much. So I would now like to call upon the chief guest, Professor Darshan Shankar, to give his chief guest address to the audience and illuminate our minds again. Thank you so much.
Honorable Justice S.R. Krishna Kumar, respected colleague and mentor Dr. V. Prakash, and Shreyas Jaisimha, and my respects to Alwar, who invited me to be here. It has indeed been a great privilege for me personally and for the university to have had an 18-year-long association with Professor Lakshmithathacharya, and now a continuing association with his 2 sons, and of course also with his brother. Lakshmithathacharya, to my experience, embodied the spirit of what we might call scientific temper, because scientific temper is something that we talk about, but in the community of scientists, it is usually only a sentimental value. It is spoken of, but scientific temper is something that you have to live with. And in Lakshmithathacharya, I regard him as a great embodiment of that scientific temper, because he had enormous knowledge, and you have spent the last 1 day looking at the scope of the various areas that his fertile mind explored. So, a man of enormous knowledge, but equally a person of enormous humility and free of ego. I mean, this is what you expect from somebody who embodies the scientific temper. So, my salutations to the late Professor Lakshmithathacharya. I'd just like to narrate one very simple example. It may sound very simple to all of you here who are scholars, but for me it was a very important thing. I once asked him in his capacity as a scholar of Vyakran to tell me, what is the nirukti or what is the root meaning of a word that we are otherwise very familiar with, which is Jagat. And of course, he told me in a few seconds, Gacchati iti Jagate. Now, for him, it was a very simple thing to answer that query, but for me, it opened my mind up, saying that the universe can be known by so many traits. It is such a vast universe, trillions of stars and planets, so much of diversity. But the word that the scholars used to name this vast cosmos was Gacchati iti Jagate. So they looked at the core aspect. I mean, underlying all this vastness, underlying all the diversity, the core essence or the swarup of the universe is indeed change. Gacchati iti Jagate. It is such a wise, construction. And I wondered, how did the Vyakran Pandits capture the essence of such a vast entity as the universe and name it by such an apt name, Jagat. So that's what admiration, that simple explanation, which to you is a day-to-day, you all have no difficulty, no Sanskrit scholars any difficulty in understanding the root meaning of Jagat, but the meaning and an illumination that it gave me was quite enormous. So I'm just narrating that as one simple example. I could tell many more examples which are equally and much more profound, but I'll refrain from doing so. I would only say that in my opinion, Professor Lakshmithathacharya was indeed the person, as has been shown in this souvenir, a person rooted in the past, rooted in tradition, living in the present, and living in the present to serve the future. My salutations once again to Professor Lakshmithathacharya.
Thank you, Professor Shankar. I think your words presented a canvas of wisdom, almost like a collage, an art of wisdom, and thank you so much for sharing your sentiments. The last, but certainly not the least, we have the Vice Presidential Address by Shri Shreyas Jaisamma, and I would like to invite him on stage to share his experiences.
After those three brief but brilliant expositions, can't take a second longer than that. But let me say, you have heard of the past, we've heard of the presence of Lakshmithathacharya. But what is the future? What is the future of honoring a memory of a scholar like Professor Lakshmithathacharya? That is the question which is not just the burden of the trustees. I would say it's an opportunity for everybody who is present in this room, everybody who is interested in this idea. Ultimately, this is about facing forward and carrying all these thoughts, all the synapses that have got fired across all the disciplines that you have heard. What does this mean for the future? One small example of that, I'll take the liberty of sharing with the audience now. Professor Alvar and I have been considering Where is it that the best minds of India go to receive an education today? Doctoral, postdoctoral education. Is it in India? Very often it is beyond India. When they encounter ideas in such a place, we have had one exposition on the Dewey Decimal System just now and how it was inadequate in capturing the epistemology of Indian knowledge systems. One other such intervention that we are now attempting is with a very leading Western university. We will announce it when the time is right. But I don't want to lose the moment and the momentum to share with you that these ideas are meant for implementation. And so what we are now contemplating is documenting, let us say, if there is a form of investment that is taking place which are climate friendly or ESG, environment, social and governance. And there are many funds, there are billions of dollars, trillions of dollars being put to this. If I say there is Islamic finance, you immediately know what it means. Immediately know where it can be applied, where it cannot be applied. Like this, there are many faith-based investment systems. And what better system to rely upon, which is thousands of years old, tested by world wars, tested by several nations breaking away, than by contemplating what does it mean to have a Sattvic investment model. Can this syllabus be created to be inserted in every business school, in every part of the world? What is it those elements can look like? This is the kind of work that some of us are doing. I take this opportunity to thank the trustees, Professor Thatharya sir. I acknowledge your senior presence, Professor Alwar, and I thank the organizers for putting together such a stellar function. And I'll take the opportunity when I do have the mic to thank Justice Krishna Kumar, Justice Prakash, Mr. Prakash and Mr. Darshan Shankar for their inputs. And with that, I will seek your leave. Namaste.
I think you touched a very important nerve when you talked about the future. So Padma Shri Prakash would like to talk about the future.
ನಮ್ಮ ವೈಸ್ ಪ್ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಅವರು ಫ್ಯೂಚರ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಸಂಸ್ಕೃತಿ ಫೌಂಡೇಶನ್. ಐ ಮಿಸ್ ದಟ್ ಸೆಂಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಇವನ್ ದೋ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ರಿಟನ್ ಇಟ್. ಐ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ರೀಡ್ ಇಟ್. ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಇನ್ ದಿ souvenir for you to reread it. Let me quickly quote unquote. I wish more well-meaning philanthropists, both central and state government and centrally ruled states, public enterprises, investors, financiers, bankers, to invest in Samskriti Foundation and empower it further to serve the society with enhancing heritage and cultural values upholding. That will be a true tribute to Professor Lakshmithathacharya, the doyen of traditional knowledge in original Sanskrit texts, with his masterly wisdom of Sanskrit, who was able to interpret and ensuring the powerful existence of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam by understanding the Granthas, the Vedas, the Puranas, and the epics for its highly advanced knowledge of humans at large. Therefore, if Samskriti Foundation matters to us, we shall and should matter more to it in our day-to-day activities. Thank you very much.
I would now like to request all the guests on the dais to officially launch the web portal of Samskriti Foundation. So we'd be honored if you could take part in that. I think most of you know what started off as a seed in 1999 has grown to a tree now. That is quite important in terms of Indian knowledge. So thank you once again. I would now like to request Dr. Alwar to felicitate all the dignitaries on the dais.
Generally, there is a saying, tell me your friends, I will tell who you are. So generally, we are all identified by our parents in the beginning. Later, we are identified by the company that we keep. And Professor Lakshmithathacharya was very keen in keeping the company of two very important and very venerable scholars. The first among them is Professor M.E. Rangacharya, who is about 91 years of age. He is about 2 years elder to Professor Lakshmithathacharya. And they were also classmates who were studying under the father of M.E. Rangacharya, who was known as Embar Narasimhacharya. And generally, people will not tell about their own shortcomings. But Rangacharya, who is not well to be with us here today, who is in Jayanagar, in fact, we had invited him to honor him as he was one of the closest friends of Lakshmithathacharya. Unfortunately, due to his age-related ailments, he was hospitalized and he could not come here. So Rangacharya used to tell me, or he even now tells me, when he himself and Professor Lakshmithathacharya were studying under Embar Narasimhacharya, that is the father of Rangacharya, Embar Narasimhacharya would say, I like Lakshmithathacharya more than you. So he would very honestly and without concealing anything, he used to tell that. So that shows the amount of friendship that Rangacharya had and has for Lakshmithathacharya. This is one incident. Second incident is the incident where it was mentioned in the morning, where Professor Lakshmithathacharya was studying under Karpangad Venkatacharya Swami while he was in Triplicane, Chennai. And at that time, he was befriended by another great budding scholar of those times and another scholar of great eminence, Sri N. Veeraraghavacharya, who is known to his close associates as Pattana Swami. And he is also around 87 years. It's quite natural that they all belong to the same age group. And in fact, we invited him, but due to slight health concerns, he could also not travel all the way from Mysore to this place. So in this context, there is a saying in Sanskrit which says, Atma vai putra namasi, sajiva sharadashatam. So the son is verily the father and father is verily the son. And here we are very privileged to have amongst us Sri Lakshminarayananji, who once again is contributing a great deal to the preservation and propagation of our traditional knowledge systems by single-handedly founding and running a traditional Gurukulam known as Parashara Gurukulam. He has also, in fact, Lord Darshi, I would like to put it like that, Lord Lakshmi Narasimha has used him as an instrument to build a temple, a huge temple of his own in a village called Belagoda, which is about 20 kilometers away from Mysore. These are all no mean achievements. In fact, building a temple is a challenge. Running a temple is even big challenge. And Sri Lakshminarayananji, who happens to be one of my closest friends, not only friend, philosopher and guide, he is here with us today to accept the honor on behalf of N. Veeraraghavacharya. I request Sri Shreyas Jaisimhaji to kindly felicitate Sri Lakshminarayan. And now we come to the end of this valedictory session. And as far as the valedictory function is concerned, I thank from the bottom of my heart Shri Justice Krishna Kumar ji. In fact, he was touring, being on the Gulbarga and Gulbarga circuit. He came to Bangalore only yesterday, and despite being tired, he was generous enough to come all the way and attend this program. Thank you very much, and hope you'll have your presence in many more programs like this. Secondly, Dr. V. Prakash, so passionate about Professor Lakshmithathacharya, and also he has lot of affection for me. So whenever we ask him for any favor, he does not refuse to do it. And in fact, it is our privilege that every year when we have the Mysore Yoga Tradition Conference, we have two of the stalwarts who are here to give regular talks that are arranged by the Samskriti Foundation and the Ashtanga Yoga Studio, Oklahoma, USA. And every year we are enlightened by both Darshan Shankar ji as well as Prakash ji, who have to contribute in their own manners. So despite advancing ages, they are still extremely active in what they are doing. Of course, they have achieved quite a lot and they want to achieve much more, which I'm sure they will be doing. So I'm extremely thankful to Dr. Prakash ji and also our own Darshan Shankar ji, with whom I have been associated officially also for so long. And finally, I thank with a lot of gratitude Sri Shreyas Jaisimha ji. Every time I meet him, we have something new to discuss. He has something new to propose. I have something new to propose. And I am sure with his stewardship, we will actually progress more and more and try to fulfill the dreams of not only the visionaries who are here on the stage. We will try to bring Indian knowledge systems to the fore. My father used to say, even if there are 100 organizations working, there is much more work which cannot be exhausted. So we will try to put in our own efforts in whatever simple way we can and take it forward. Thank you very much. Namaste to all. Thank you very much.